Well, as demand for assistance increases, aid agencies are looking for new and more efficient ways to provide it. Technology and the private sector involvement is driving that change. To find out more, I spoke with Matthew Hochbrueckner. He's the Business Partnership Advisor at the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. And I began by asking him about how innovation is affecting the work of aid organizations.
So we're continuously tapping into the technologies and new advances that are available to us, working closely with the private sector and those that develop new technologies in order to reach those that have previously been unable to be reached, to gather information that previously was unable to be accessed, and to draw upon the increasing levels of connectivity that affected populations have in order to identify some of their own needs and better help prioritize with the United Nations and other responders to those disasters.
And are there some aid groups that are better equipped to handle this than others in this area?
I think all aid agencies recognize the changes that are taking place, and we trust that the UN is at the forefront alongside NGOs and others that have been responding. But we also recognize that the private sector has already been a significant actor in humanitarian response. They are quite often affected by the natural disasters themselves, or have technologies that they know can be put to good use and have the desire to utilize their technologies in a way that help others.
And we have seen some public-private partnerships in helping, in providing food and providing resources. So what role would you say that's playing also in easing the humanitarian burden?
Well, the private sector is continuing to provide additional services. We see a lot of developments in those that work in connectivity, mobile phone operators, and the satellite operators to ensure that there's increased connectivity. Logistics companies have always been strongly engaged in the past. We also see a lot more from financial services companies that are providing new technologies and new ways to provide cash transfers to affected populations. Increasingly, the UN and other humanitarian responders are moving away from the distribution of commodities or aid supplies in favor of cash, which can be used more readily wherever markets are available to purchase. It puts the power of decision-making into the hands of affected people. But of course, this relies significantly on increasing technologies and the role of the private sector that largely runs financial services around the world.
So this is something that you think will be an ongoing trend in this partnership, instead of, as you're saying, moving away from some of the more traditional ways of helping, now incorporating technology and some of these growing partnerships?
Absolutely. I mean, we've seen the growth of public-private partnerships and, frankly, the strategic collaboration between the UN, governments, and other traditional humanitarian responders with the private sector to better understand and to plan in advance of emergencies how they can work better together. I think this was one of the key themes that came out from the World Humanitarian Summit, which was held back in May in Istanbul earlier this year. Where the private sector came together with UN and other actors to recognize how the trends have demanded increased collaboration, but in advance, planning in advance of an emergency, not trying to form partnerships during that emergency, but at the global level and particularly at the national level in high-risk countries, mapping out who are the significant actors from the private sector and ensuring that they're better prepared to help respond to, alongside governments and the humanitarian system, to natural disasters and conflicts.